How's it going, everybody? I've had a few people ask me what's the proper way on how to remove the chassis system from the polymer lower on the pistol. Well, this video I'm going to show you how to do it, what to look for, and what not to do. So with this particular video, I don't do it too often, but if you do not have a nice clean area to work with, nobody else around to bug you, you have to be extremely careful that you do not lose parts, because one of these springs that you're going to have to take apart has a very good tendency of coming out and shooting across a room or a house, or just, you know, disappearing on you. So with that being warned, if you do take this apart, this is a common spring to end up coming out and you end up missing it, and if you don't have it, you cannot put the pistol back together. It won't function correctly. So you've been warned. Alrighty, in the polymer lower, once you removed your barrel, your upper assembly, everything, you're left with the polymer lower. What you're going to need is your original safety key. This is the key to lock the trigger system. You will need this. If not, you're going to have kind of a hard time, or you're going to end up marring up something to engage the safety. So with that being said, as you can tell, this one here, I flicked it. So this is what your pistol would look like once you've removed your upper. You're going to need to take the safety key and engage the safety. So once that's done, the key you don't need, put it off so you don't lose it. And that's what it's going to look like. Now, a few of these models have a handcuff key. They're supposed to be selling this plastic part, which I'll show you in just a second, but it will actually come, instead of having the 2-pin safety key, it's going to actually have a handcuff key for law enforcement individuals, so they don't have to have two separate keys. They can actually lock it up with that one. So with that being said, your takedown lever, on your frame, you're going to notice there is a hash mark over here. You're going to need to rotate the takedown lever till it lines up perfectly with it. With a small screwdriver, if necessary, you can just go in underneath of it and kind of pull up. Now granted, I've pulled this one out a few times, so it's a little bit loose, but on my L model 9mm, it was extremely aggravating to get this lock to come out. It just was extremely tight first time it came out. So if you have to pry on it a little bit, don't be concerned. Try not to mar up your polymer. It's easily doable. So might get a longer screwdriver or so, but pull out the lockdown key, the lever, and then you're ready to pull the whole lower chassis out. Now this comes into that warning. This spring assembly that holds in the handcuff is actually being held right now with the polymer. You're going to reach up and grab the two front rails, and you're going to slightly pull up. When I say slightly, you're only going to come up just big enough to get your fingernail in up here at the front, the tip of your finger. What you're going to have an issue with is there's the spring that's holding this in, the whole keeper, and that little plastic lock is going to want to shoot out. So once you get this up a little bit, enough to put your middle finger on it to use to pry, you need to put your pointer finger over where this is at, on top of the ramp assembly. Keep your finger over, and on the other side, you're going to see this spring. This spring here is the mechanism for your slide catch. It is going to also want to pop off. So you're going to need to keep your thumb right over the top of the lug to hold it, so none of these springs come flying out. Now the trick is when you go to pull this up, most people pull too far or it's stuck, and inadvertently you'll pull it, this spring will fly off and hit you. This spring shoots across the room and ends up being missed. I've done this a few times. So, take your middle finger, keep your pointer finger over, lock your thumb, and just very, very slowly pull for this spring. As you can tell, as soon as it starts to come out, I've already got pressure on this thing. I kid you not, it will go flying if you're not careful. Once you pull up, you're just going to keep pulling straight up, and the chassis, the whole trigger pack, chassis assembly will come out from the polymer. There's nothing in here that's going to happen. You can just set this off to the side. Kind of angle it down and release the tension off the spring. And here is that spring and the safety mechanism. This, if you're not careful, will go flying across the room. So if you've just launched one and you're going, I don't know what it looks like, you're looking for this little bitty button and a spring with approximately 3 coils. We'll set that off to the side. Now the next thing that's going to happen is when you set this down, the safety catch is going to pop off for the slide lock, and then this spring comes off. So don't worry, it's supposed to. It locks on itself, but that's what's going to pop off. With that being disassembled, do not take your trigger pack down this lower assembly. Do not go any further unless you have been to the armorer school. The pins, the way this thing works, unless you have the good book, which I have here, you are not going to get this back in, or you should not attempt to try to figure out how this works. I've messed with enough pistols long enough. I just would not recommend this. The only reason to take this trigger pack out of the polymer lower is if you've dropped your gun in the mud and you need to clean out the whole inside. At this time, if you wanted to, this would also be a very easy way on how to pull out the mag release spring and flip it over for ambidextrous use. But this is the quick takedown. Now, to reassemble this, you're going to start off with the trigger pack. Get your slide lock, your release. Just drop it in over the top. It's kind of sit where that circle's at and sits there. The long spring is going to go on this little tab, and in the top of the chassis, which I'll use right here to point out, you're going to see there's this little slot. This section of that spring needs to go into the little slot. So, easiest way to do it is to start there first and then hook the spring. Now, with the slide lock down, you're going to take the spring and go over the top and use it to lock in the slide lock. Give me a second here and I'll show you how it looks. You kind of have to use your fingernails. Okay. Holding that spring down so it doesn't jump out, this is going to lock in the slide lock bar. As you can see, that little spring tip is in the hole. That's what it's going to look like. Alright, now here comes the second part of the fun. The lockout tab in the spring, you're going to need to reassemble it. It does not matter what side the spring, there's no up or down. It's going to go right here above the trigger into the little circle. And you're going to have to line it up, which doing this on cameras is kind of fun. You're going to have to kind of hold it and reverse the angle when you go to reassemble it. Again, be very, very careful you don't go launching that spring across the house. The back of the trigger pack, you're going to see these two little wings that stick out. They go in the back of the slide, or in the back of the polymer. So insert those first and start rocking down. This is where you need to push that whole assembly all the way in, and then push the trigger pack back into the slide. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Once it starts, you can get your hand out the way. This just takes some pushing and manipulating. Just push all the way down, and you're going to see that key is not now lined up. Go back to your security bit and insert it and rotate until it clicks. And it'll pop back out. It might take half a rotation or a full rotation to get that to line back up. Once that is done, everything's back in. You see the slide stop works. Take your assembly lock, push in, and it doesn't matter. You can have this thing fully rotated. Until it rotates back and being even, it'll depress and go back into the gun. And then you can engage it. And that is how you pull out the trigger pack. Now that will work on any model of the Steyrs. Does not matter if it's an S, C, M, or L, and that works on all generations, 1 through 4. Since I don't have the 5th generation with me, or actually, you shouldn't say that, it hasn't come out just yet. When we get one of those and they're released, we'll see how they disassemble. But guns all the way from 2018 back to 2000, that will be how they disassemble. Alrighty guys, well in the next video I'm going to show on how to do a polish job and improve some trigger, the trigger pull and the slide. So it's just a polish, and I will show you how all that works. Alrighty. Have a good one.